Let's put ourselves in the shipper perspective, right? When you're selecting like a carrier network, and I'm sure like, especially this day and age with, it being a looser market, you're getting hundreds of calls per day. What are they looking for?
Welcome back to the Veritas Vantage podcast. Thanks for joining us today for another episode. Today, we want to give you a peek behind the curtain. If you're listening, you likely are on our side of the industry working with a lot of shippers and carriers, but we work with a lot of top shippers in the industry, and we hear firsthand some of the challenges, headaches, difficulties that they're dealing with on a daily, weekly basis. So Brian, what can we share with them? What experience do we have here?
Yeah. So, picture this. It's 5:30 in the morning on a Friday. Your boss is texting you, emailing you. You have a shipment going out. It's one of your, it's a hot shipment. It is, one of your biggest clients that you have a ton of, shelf space into. The carrier is MIA. The broker's not returning calls, texts, emails. What do you do? How does that feel?
Heard that story before, probably too many times.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the nature of the beast. It's extremely common, unfortunately. I think it's very important from the shippers to have those types of partners that are going to communicate up front, because it does happen constantly, especially if you're a high volume shipper, you're going to run into that. But I think if I'm in those shoes, I'm picking up the phone or sending out some emails. Hot shipment, price is going to go up, but hopefully one of your partners can bail you out and save the day. But if you don't have the right people in place, you may be stuck shipping that on Monday.
If you were a shipper, what are some things that you would value in the relationship with a broker? Is it purely price driven? Is it communication? Like what is it, man?
Yeah, so there's a lot of buzzwords that you hear that get thrown out constantly, but I think off the bat, it's got to be trust. If the information that you're getting from your carrier partners or your brokers, if you don't trust the information they're giving you, it makes it very difficult for you to do your job. From a shipper standpoint, you're wearing so many hats depending on the size of your company, where you need to be, okay, is this where it needs to be? Do I trust that person? Is this accurate information? Do I feel comfortable enough passing that information along, or am I questioning that and digging in? Like, okay, getting anxiety. Is this really what's going on?
Yeah.
Or am I going to be stuck with this on Friday at 5:30?
Right. Well, I think even like you said, like multiple hats. To me, what that screams is stressful.
Yep.
Right. So if I'm a shipper and I'm wearing multiple hats and I have to be, part, fractional COO, logistics manager, handling that stuff, to me, that's stressful. Do you see that a lot, or do you see that with your shipping partners, or how's that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think to give some insight into, what we're dealing with and some of the clients that we work with or shippers that we work with, I'm sure some of our listeners aren't necessarily involved in the industry the way we are, but we work with shippers from all sizes, from startups to Fortune 500 companies.
Right. And,
depending on the size of the company, that will tell you the responsibilities of the transportation manager or VP of logistics.
Sure.
Or hell, a lot of times it's operations.
Right.
Their title's operations, but they're wearing 10 different hats. So, in terms of responsibilities, it just depends. But if you're a smaller company, you may be managing 5 different areas of the business. If you're at Target or US Foods or Amazon, you may have a specific role. You might be managing people, but it all varies.
With that, like, okay, let's put ourselves in the shipper perspective, right? What are some other things when you're selecting like a carrier network? And I'm sure, like, especially this day and age with it being a looser market, you're getting hundreds of calls per day. Right? What are some things that stick out, for those brokers that are trying to get into a shipper? Like, we just talked about it a few minutes ago for the listeners, but like, let's dig a little bit deeper. What are they looking for? Trust, you mentioned, pricing's always out there. What are other things, if you were, in that shipper's role, what's important?
Yeah, this is what I would look for. Does this company have credibility off the bat? there's so many, brokerages, 3PLs, carriers out there where you don't know how to decipher who's actually worth a shit and who's just calling from their basement, hoping that they land a shipment or two. So, one, do we have a need?
Yeah.
Is this person calling me credible? Do they actually have a personality? Or are they sending me template after template and just blasting to 100 other shippers? Because that's the difficulty. You can see an email or hear someone on the phone and immediately know that person's in their basement.
Yeah. I would love to handle some of these calls, because I feel like I'd have some fun with a couple of people calling in or emailing in. But yeah, it's
no, for sure. And that's it. Sometimes you'll catch yourself where you'll be on a phone call and you're just like, oh God, I'm sounding like everybody else. But that's the thing.
Hundreds.
But also, have they done their homework?
Yeah.
If they're calling me and I'm moving, let's just say, energy drinks.
Yep.
Are they just give me some generic sales pitch off the bat when they know nothing about me?
Sure.
When they're calling and it's tailored and I can tell they've done a little bit of legwork, or they know a little bit about my company and they're tailoring their approach to something specific that I actually need.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna be more likely to listen to what exactly they're saying. And still, in that time frame, that person realistically has, I'd say, 8 to 15 seconds?
Sure.
Before I'm on to the next thing and I'm hanging up or deleting that email. So it's a very short time frame, but if they can do what I'm looking for and catch my attention when that 8 to 15 seconds, then I'm more inclined to listen.
Agreed. And I think, even, in our industry, I think it is challenging from the shipper's perspective, right? Like, they're getting all these phone calls. They still have to, they're wearing the multiple hats. They're dealing with stressful situations. They're working nights. They're working weekends. They're making sure that they have to report to whoever that is. If they're reporting to an operations side, right? It's like, I'm reporting to the COO, making sure that this stuff is running smoothly. I always think, I want, as a broker, we want to make that logistics manager look good, right? To their COO. Do you think, with that, like, what are some kind of horror stories that you've heard from the shipper side, like trusting a new broker? Oh man, I brought this carrier broker in and they burned me. Like, what are some stories that you've heard?
Well, for one, I think the industry as a whole needs better excuses.
Agreed.
Or more excuses, because the shippers, they're not dumb.
Yeah.
If they're moving any type of volume,
especially if they've been around for a while.
Correct.
If they've been in the game for a little bit, they know.
Yes. Yeah. And there's so many providers out there.
Yeah.
They all say the same things, especially the excuses. Mm-hmm. Their truck broke down.
Flat tire.
They got flat tires. They're held up at their previous stop.
Yep.
They ran out of hours. It's all the same stuff. So when you hear that over and over, the reputation of brokerages, if those are the people that you're bringing on and working with, then your opinion of them is going to be tainted, because that is common in the industry. But there are a lot of great providers out there. And at the end of the day, for me, if I'm a shipper, I'm asking, is this person bringing value? And are they going to make my life easier?
Right. I think with that, like you mentioned it early, but the trust factor, like that is number one. I feel like that's where a lot of people, fall short, right? Like from the broker carrier side, and even looking at it from the shipper's perspective. So, you said another thing there real quick, the value, right? Bringing real value to a shipper. Like, what is that? Is that, you mentioned, having a pretty well-versed script, or who you're calling prior to. What are some other ways that, shippers can see value from a carrier or service provider?
Yeah, you mentioned this earlier, but how do we make them look like a superstar?
Yeah.
But also, how can we make their lives easier? Usually, if you're making their lives easier, you're making them look like a superstar. You ask, what else can you do? We talk about trust a lot. I think trust, it can be easy or it can be extremely difficult to establish. But in terms of tactical approaches that you can take to build that quickly and be consistent with the service that you're providing is, one, making their life easier by dropping updates in their inbox. Let's say, depending on volume, again, if you're running 1 or 2 shipments or 10 or 50 or 200, whatever it may be, bringing them updates, having those drop in their inbox, or shooting them a text or a phone call, whatever it may be, so they can forward those on to the powers that be. But also issues. This is an industry that is consumed with issues. If you do not know how to problem solve and fix issues, you're not going to last. You will not be in the industry very long.
When you say issues, what do you mean? Like issues like?
There's numerous issues, but talking about trucks breaking down, having to repower a trailer that's broken down, or has product on the trailer that needs to get delivered to the receiver as soon as possible. How are you approaching that? Are you asking around, or are you just throwing it back on the client's plate and say, like, here's the issue, I don't have an answer, good luck fixing this. There's a lot of scheduling conflicts or delays. There's rush shipments that need white glove service and over communication. So there's a lot of things, and I just threw out a few. But there's a lot of things. The biggest thing is, and this is cliche, but instead of bringing issues to your client, be proactive, have a solution already in place. Here's the issue. They're going to be delayed an hour, but here's the solution, and here's how we got it resolved. I communicated with the shipper. It's smoothed out. We're going to be good to go.
People always say, man, the people that make the most money solve the most problems, right?
That's exactly it. That's exactly
especially
it.
in our industry, right? So, no, I think that's great. I mean, there's a ton of information there. I think a lot of times I always view it like this, where if I'm a shipper, right, and I'm looking for a carrier or a service provider, we mentioned it a handful of times, but how do they make my life easier? And also, my job is on the line. It's my responsibility. If I work for this, we'll call it like a food manufacturer, right? We'll call it a frozen food company, and we process frozen chicken. And I need to get that product into, Costco, Walmart, Kroger. Well, now if it's not on time, I'm getting my ass chewed out, right? And I don't want that, right? So like, okay, how do I trust these service providers to make sure that we're delivering on time? And then, even having that communication along the way.
We've talked a lot about value and making your clients look like rock stars to their supervisors. What are a few things outside of, just making sure, the transactional, things that we do, but making sure things get from point A to point B? What are some other things you can do besides that to add additional value to your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just from all the conversations that we have on a daily basis from clients and, shippers that we deal with, it's about being that true partner, right? Where, there's sometimes where you're going to have to take it on the chin, and you're going to have to maybe put some, money out of your pocket on the line for the partnership. I think that's part of the true partnership that our industry needs, right? And that's exactly, if I'm a shipper, that's what I want. I want a true partner that I know that if I send over, 10 loads to in a week, they're going to take care of every single one. They're not going to come back and try to renegotiate on every single shipment, right? I think those are things that we can do to bring real value. And when you talk about a true partnership and the trust side of it, you have to do it every single day. This is not an industry where you just, sign them up for service and then they, you set it and forget it. It's not an industry like that. You have to service the client every single day. You have to bring your morals, your ethics to the table every single day. I mean, we always say it, but you have to choose the harder right over the easier wrong. Right, especially in this industry when there's so much gray area and so many challenges that are out there, you have to do that to build long-term partnerships.
I hear you, and a lot of great stuff. At the end of the day, I think most providers view this industry as getting something from point A to point B. It's a lot more than that. And I think when you can do these things that we're discussing consistently and you're putting your client's best interests in the forefront, the rest handles itself.
Agreed.
If you're a shipper, would love to get your thoughts on best practices or what you look for in a partner. Please feel free to drop those in the notes or shoot us a message. We'd love to share those. For upcoming episodes, we are looking to have a few of our partners on to hear it firsthand from their perspective. Any questions you have for them, let us know. We'd love to ask them for you. Price is always going to be important, but when your service is far and above the competition's and you're not that much higher,
right?
Shippers, and this is anyone in general, you need to think of the consequences for paying a lower cost and getting a shittier service.